thank you for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. As you know that we record these calls and place our recordings on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. And I will really appreciate if you let people in as they're joining, if I'm not paying attention. Okay. And today we are going to be talking about Layer 7 network policies with Azure Container Services for AKS. Okay. Um, Here is the quick agenda. We are going to take a quick look at advanced container networking services for AKS, what they are. There was a session that in Power Lunch session that we did on that topic, I think a few months back. You may want to take a look at it, but we just want to do a quick, in a couple of minutes, a quick overview of that. Then we're going to be talking about Layer 7 and FQDN network policies. Okay, and just FYI, Layer 7 policies are in public preview, FQDN network policies are GA, and the rest would be a demo. Please feel free to ask if you have any questions. So let me just move this thing to the side so it doesn't bother us. What are advanced container networking services? So, advanced container networking services is a feature or a suite of services which enhance the networking capabilities of AKS. So you have different applications that are running in AKS, different services, microservices that are running. They're talking to each other, they're talking to other services. And we are talking about, in this case, east-west traffic between the services as well as north-south traffic that is outside, going outside the cluster. So what these um, features allow you to do is to number one, assert control on the networking between the services and between services and outbound. At the same time, provide you visibility. And I remember that session, we covered the observability feature of advanced container networking services specifically. So that is, that observability that these advanced container networking services provide, and just keep in mind there is a cost to it. So if you want to take advantage of those, you have to either create a server with these services enabled, or you can enable them later on. But with that, there is a cost that you pay for these services. So there's a charge for it. Okay. Um, and some of these services require Cilium. So Cilium, that's once again a Kubernetes feature, and and you have to have Cilium running on some of the clusters. Like for example, for layer 7, uh, you definitely need a Cilium. For On the other hand, for FQDN, you don't need that. Okay, the network policy. So when we're talking about network policies, for layer 7 network policies, you need Cilium, but for FQDN network policy, you don't need Cilium. So the way that the whole layer 7 network policy work. So first of all, let's take a step back for a second. When you have advanced container networking services, you have this envoy proxy that is running. Okay, that proxy, that agent is running, and that is intercepting traffic going back and forth. And then let's say that you have a layer 7 network policy that you have deployed. Okay, you have two services. You have service one, which is in the or source service, and then in a pod source, and then you have pod target, which is representing the target service. Okay, and there's a call being made. First of all, what it's going to do is it's going to check if there is any layer 7 policy in effect. If there is no layer 7 policy, the call will go through as usual and all good. If there is a layer 7 policy, then it's going to redirect it and send it to the NY proxy. Through the NY proxy, this traffic will, um, it will be blocked. Sorry, if the policy allows it, then it will be forwarded. If the policy doesn't allow it, it will be blocked. Okay. Just keep in mind that when you have ACNS, sorry, I misspoke, your traffic will always go through the ACNS proxy. And that will decide if there is a layer 7 policy there, then it will block it or let it go. Okay. Um, any questions so far? So that happens on nodes, and basically layer 7 is at that moment is controlling. I mean, in this specific example, is controlling east-west traffic. Okay. So what does it bias? What is the difference between layer 7 and FQDN? Layer 7 basically covers HTTP, gRPC, and Kafka. So if you have running these services and services calling each other, then you can have this granular level application control that goes beyond IP address and port-based control, kind of a what we call the traditional network policy. Okay, and once you have that type of control, you can assert enhanced security. You can enhance your security posture, and you can block any unauthorized API. So let's say that you have a microservice that is running a very kind of some sort of sensitive APIs, and not every service can call those. So you can control the access to it, like okay, any service that is calling that has to come from somewhere, and at the same time, other services should only uh, certain services are only allowed to call that particular services, and you can have error handling. And just keep in mind, observability is a key piece to it. So the same observability that applies, like if you have advanced container services with observability, you can see this information on your Grafana dashboards and things like that. So all of that is available to you. Okay. Any questions, folks? And so let's quickly move on. So what are some of the limitation? Okay, so the cluster size, one limitation is cluster size is 1,000 nodes or 40,000 pods, which is greater. And at this moment, HTTP, HTTPS, gRPC, and Kafka are supported. Okay, just keep in mind that layer 7 policy um, is not with ACNS, is not compatible with layer 7 policies that are implemented via like a Istio or things like that. So there is documentation that you can take a look at it. I have provided the link to see what are some of the limitations. And just keep in mind, for layer 7, you have to have a layer 7 network policy, you have to have the Cilium add-on there. If the Cilium is not there, layer 7 will not work. But uh, FQDN policy will work with or without Cilium. I mean, there are, and by the way, you can apply it to the existing cluster, and you can apply these policies to when you are creating a cluster yourself. So both goes both ways. Okay, and there are ways to check if those policies are there and things like that. Okay. So with that, let's come to the demo piece of it. So let me show you how you want to maybe, if you want to create a cluster, how you're gonna go about it. So this is show you, and we can. So one thing to keep in mind that there is a certain flag that you have to use, and I just want to spend a minute on this particular command line here. So let's paste this here. Okay. So this is the command line. Okay, I mean this is pretty boilerplate. AKS create. This is the name of the cluster. This is the name of the resource group. Network plugin. You have to use Azure. Okay, I'm gonna come back to this network data plane in a second. You first of all you have to enable ACNS. Okay, this is required, and then the second piece is ACNS advanced networking policies. Okay, these advanced networking policies, uh, you have to define it if they are L7 or FQDN. Just keep in mind, if you just want FQDN, you just put FQDN here. Okay. But if you want both L7 and FQDN, you will have to put L7 because that will cover layer 7 as well as FQDN policy. Got it? So basically, layer 7 covers both layer 7 and FQDN policy. And if you are putting layer 7, you have to put network data plane as Cilium. That is important because remember, layer 7 only works with network data plane of Cilium. Okay. So with that, this is, let me show you the cluster that I have. I have created a AKS cluster beforehand just to save time since we only have like 25, 28 minutes. So this is the AKS cluster and I have deployed a, uh, and by the way, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take a look at the layer 7 uh, layer 7 um, network policy. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, and what I have done already, let me just do a Control L, clear the screen. The first thing I'm going to go in here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the two services that I have deployed. There are two microservices. They are very simple microservices, and let's take a look at them. I'm going to show you the code for each. One is called HTTP client. So this is my client. This is a simple HTTP service, which is application that is gonna be calling the HTTP server. Okay, that's all there is to it. And then I have the HTTP server. This is my HTTP server, and this is very simple Nginx listening on port 80, and it has just two methods. One, if you call it directly at the root, it's going to return you hello from the server root. Second, if you slash call product, it's going to list products. Just mention list products. I mean, just keep in mind the goal is not to show like any fancy schmancy services. I mean, of course, you can test it out with complex services just to show the power of, sorry, this is the power of the networking policy. That's all there is to it. Okay, so let's quickly now look at the kubectl get pods. So since I have created one replica each, so one pod is representing server and the other pod is representing client. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to use uh, kubectl exec to call um, this particular service from the client. So what I'm doing is I'm going to the client, look at the client pod. So what you do is you get the client pod name and through the client pod, just do a curl to the server. Okay. And here we go. Look, listing products. I mean, this is the output. It's connected and it's listing products. I mean, nothing fancy, nothing earth shattering, just shows us that client can call the server, everything is good. Okay, now I have a policy that I want to apply. Okay, so let's take a look at the policy. This is my policy, so let's go through it. This is a Cilium policy. If you are familiar with it, I mean, I'm saying applies to port 8080 and basic from, and look, this is very important. It has both the endpoints. It has the receiving end, which is HTTP server, and it has the from endpoint. So if the requests are coming from here, then allow it. So think of it. You have a sensitive app. You can also say it should only this service or this sensitive microservice should only accept request from a certain service. You can definitely do that. So that's what we are doing, and what we are saying is it can only do get, and it can only that path it should be allowed. Okay, and you can have a more complex policy, but I'm just using what came out of the the sample, just so everybody can take a look at that. So now let's run this policy. So what I'm gonna do is uh, I'm going to apply this policy http dash policy.yaml. Let's apply it. Okay. And if you want to check if your policy gets applied, do a kubectl get cnp. Okay. Yes, that policy is there. You can, do this, describe. If you're not sure if that's the policy that applied, you can do allow dash get dash products. So that will show you, okay, that's the policy that we applied. Okay, now we have applied that policy. Now let's run the same command that we ran a few minutes ago. Okay, so this is the allowed path. Got it? So when we should run it, it should run. Yeah, it is running. Look, it is returning listing products. Wonderful. So that's and now let's run the path that is not allowed. I'm just going to simply remove the products. I know that this is a valid path on the server, but does it work now? Look, access denied. So this is the power of these networking policy. If you have played with it, in any other capacity, So now with ACMS, you can have like a very granular control between the client and the server, and you can, allow and block traffic with these layer 7 policy. Okay. Any questions so far before we move on to the FQDN policies? Okay. So now let's do something with the FQDN policy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and set up an FQDN policy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say outbound to certain ports. I'm going to allow it, and I'm going to deny, inbound, outbound to certain URLs. Okay. So first of all, let me show you the FQDN policy before we run it. So this is the FQDN policy. What it is saying is you can call outside on bing.com, and basically you can query that bing.com, but any other URL, it means any other matching pattern, any other URL that doesn't match this pattern is not allowed. So you can search this FQDNs, but any other FQDN which doesn't match this pattern is not allowed. Okay, so that's that. So this is the FQDN policy. So let's apply this policy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and I'm for this one I'm going to use a namespace called demo. Okay, so this policy is now applied and it should start creating some CDM clients. So that's that. Okay, now I'm going to create a demo pod. Get that address, paste it here, and that's gonna create a demo pod. Okay, so what it is doing now is it's creating a test image and it's creating a demo pod and it's putting me inside that demo pod. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna just query some DNS from there. Okay. Um, Once that is there, what I'm gonna do is I am going to what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if we have um, the right traffic. So I'm going to go into the second window. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to check. Um, so this is the demo pod and this is the name of the um, node on which this pod is running. I am going to take this and I am going to check if the instance of the cilium on this one because I wanna kind of check on the policies there. Okay, so these are the two cilium nodes, the pods that are running, and then this is the pod that I need. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open a session to this pod. Okay, now the session is open, and this is just to trace out information, like to see what's happening on this pod, to just see that if we are kind of what we are doing on this pod. So, and with that, I am going to turn on Celium monitor. Okay, so the Celium monitor is running. And now let's go back. You see, it's already checking something. Some traffic came in, so it's showing us the traffic. Okay, now let's go back to the other one, and we will try to connect to Bing.com. So now we are back to our test pod. So think of it. We deployed a test container in a demo namespace where we have a policy in effect, and let's do this. Now we run this connect to Bing, and it is connected, because this is allowed. Go in here, look, there is, it's checking like the traffic is flowing. Now let's try to connect to something which is not Bing.com. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to connect to example.com. DNS lookup. So you see, so it did not allow it to go to that. So, or we can try something different, or let's make it see. Oh, sorry. You see, it's the traffic is not going, and it's gonna start intercepting traffic and start letting you know that the traffic is not going to into that service. So basically, so that's kind of these two policy. You have the layer 7. So just a quick wrap up. So there are with Azure, Advanced Container Networking Services for AKS, which is which kind of allows you to have um enhanced networking control across your application and both your application and outside. This for basically impacting your north, south, and east, west traffic, allow you to create network policies, both layer 7 and FQDN based network policies. And those network policies you can use to, number one, assert more control over networking, and number two, get more observability of what's going on in your AKS cluster. So that's pretty much I wanted to cover. We have 3 more minutes. Any questions?
Any timelines for it to become GA?
I'm not sure. You have to watch out for it. I mean, normally when something goes into um, public preview, it takes sometime a few months to go to GA. So, I mean, and I'm hopeful we have the build conference. So normally a number of public preview and GA announcements are tied to build. So let's see if it gets, a GA at build time. Any
Yeah,
other questions, folks?
currently I have some Kubernetes clusters and use this Cilium plugin, and we have like some network policies to block cross namespace communications. But we use the namespaces as the boundaries. But with this layer 7 ACNS advanced policies, we can monitor and block external HTTP
Yep,
based
yep,
traffic also,
yep,
right?
yep.
And FQDN
Exactly.
based.
Absolutely. That's the thing. I mean, FQDN and layer 7. Because when you
Okay.
go to layer 7, you can basically block um, uh, at this moment HTTP, HTTPS, Kafka, and gRPC. I think
Mhm.
they will add more stuff to it, but at this moment, I mean, there's a kind of a wide range that you can block or
Okay.
unblock.
But and from an architecture perspective, is it better to route all the egress traffic through some NAT gateway or firewall and then have those policies to allow deny on the
That's a
firewall,
very
egress
good
firewall,
question.
or
I think you will have multiple points. One is inside the cluster, and then, so think of it as an application developer, as an application architect, you are working with that application inside AKS. So you have to put controls. A network architect will put controls outside. So where your cluster, maybe other cluster is running, so they will put a NAT gateway and put controls on it. You cannot rely on those controls. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Ideally,
Okay.
you should make sure that if whatever you can control, you should control it inside and then let it go outside.
Gotcha.
Any other questions, folks? Thank you very much for joining, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend. Hope to see everybody next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch.
Yeah, thanks, Naveen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Naveed.
you. Yeah,
Thanks, Naveed.
guys.